I just done a walk around on my 99 Ford F-250 Super Duty, and this Pontiac showed up in the background. So I thought, well, I'll do a walk around on it and explain a little bit of it to you. This is actually was born a Pontiac Lemans Sport Coupe, but got cloned into a GTO, which most of them were. So anyway, I bought it this way. Me, myself personally, I would love for it to have stayed a Lemans Sport Coupe with its badged as that and kept that way, but it was already done. It was too far along that I didn't really want to go back with it. So anyway, born a Lemans Sport Coupe, which Sport Coupe means it's got the post, and that's kind of interesting because there was actually less Sport Coupes produced than there was hard tops. So there's more hard tops around, and that's the most popular, of course, was the hard tops. But now there's really a lack of these around because from what I've looked into Pontiac racing and stuff, these were lighter than the hard top, and so a lot of them got raced and they're no more. So you actually, even looking online or anything, you'll see more hard tops than you do the Sport Coupe with the post and the chrome around the windows and stuff, which I like them. But that's what it was birthed as. I pretty much knew when I seen it, it was probably not a real GTO because of the price and the 400. Most purists will keep a 389 tri-power or 4-barrel in a GTO. Most of them will not take that out. So when they had the 400 in it, and I'm real suspicious of these because there's so many of them's been cloned. And the price was more along with a Sport Coupe, a Lemans, than it was a GTO. The guy was very honest with me. He didn't try to pull anything over on me. He said that he'd done a Pontiac Historical Society, PHS, on it, and it was birthed Lemans Sport Coupe, and he told me that. So he was honest with me. He wasn't trying to pull anything over on me. But he wasn't the one that actually rebuilt it. I think the car was probably flipped a couple of times, but I did find out the kid that originally started it, and he told me a lot of the history on the car, and I ended up coming out pretty good on it because some of the things I didn't know, I ended up finding out after I'd bought it, and I'm glad because he said he's put new quarters on it. It had new fenders put on it. I believe whatever needed to be put on was put on new. He said there wasn't body putty in it and that every nut and bolt had pretty much been dealt with. So I ended up coming out all right on it. As you can see, it's got the American Racing mags. It's got the old school BF Goodrich radial TAs. And so all of that I like because I'm a 70s kid and that's the era I came from. And so I like that. It's got drag bags and air shocks. And as you can tell, I don't have them aired up real high, but I do have it a little bit because that's what we did. We actually did it a lot more than that. I had a GTX back in the 70s that almost had the front bumper dragging and the rear end way up in the air. Tried to convince my dad I was saving money by saving gas by going downhill all the time. He didn't quite buy that. He told me to get the car back down where it belongs. So he didn't buy that one. I like this car real well. I bought a car to drive. I didn't buy a car to set in the garage. Of course, I park it in the garage because I have one, but I drive it all the time. I drive it to Walmart. I drive it to the grocery store. I drive it because that's what I wanted one for. I didn't want a show car or something to set in the garage and, have your friends come over and look at it and then shut the door on it again. I wanted something to go up and down the road, not a show car, but a go car. And I have enjoyed it. I've had it about 3 years. I've really enjoyed driving it. I like the old classic cars better than the new cars. I know the new cars have a lot more comfort things, but I just like the feel of the old classics because I guess I'm an old classic. But one of the things that I have noticed with these is the lighting is terrible in the rear end. I've been stopped about 3 times telling me there's no lights, no brake lights, and then I have to show them that it does have brake lights. You just can't hardly see them. I've actually put LEDs in them. I've cleaned them. I've done everything I can do. There's just not a lot of red lens that shows. It's mostly chrome, and so there's just not a lot of lens that shows. And so you don't see a lot of red, which is very dangerous. I get a little nervous driving in town because people come up on me pretty fast. And I don't think they're doing it on purpose. They can't see. I was thinking about putting a brake light up there in the package rack. Wouldn't look very classic, but it might keep me from getting hit in the rear end. It's got the 400 stroker, which it's never been dynoed, but from what I understand, it's running somewhere between 450 and 475 horse, which is plenty. I don't need any more than that. I've had vintage air put on, which took all of that heater junk off the firewall there, cleaned that up. The vintage air is lots colder and the heater is a lot warmer than what was in it before. The air conditioning never did work very good at all, or at all. So it's a 400 stroker. They take a 455 crank, I believe, and put in a 400, and it's got some other goodies in it. I think it was a Butler Performance kit. I'm not sure. The motor was done by Wilhite Performance out of Derby, Kansas. I don't know the guy real personal. I've been over there a couple times, but you get to talking to Pontiac guys, and they have his name held up pretty high as far as a rebuilder of motors for Pontiacs. I guess he is one of the ones that knows this stuff about Pontiacs. He's an old racer. He's raced Pontiacs for years. So if you've been in the racing circuit, you probably have heard of him, Tom Wilhite out of Derby. Done a great job on this, and I've never heard of any motors that he's ever done that there's ever been problems with. So I'm thankful he's the one that did it. I didn't have him do it because I didn't know him then, and what car wasn't mine. But anyway, it's been done by him and knows his stuff on those. One of the things about Pontiacs, they're a little hard to keep cool. This car doesn't like summer very well. It loves wintertime. It's amazing, but in the summertime when it's hot out, it doesn't run near as good as it does when you take it out on a day like 30 degrees, and this thing, there's such a difference. It's amazing, that cool air. Just makes it run so much better, and of course you don't have to worry about heating. Pontiacs run hotter than the Chevrolets. I've looked into the history on them. They just ran hotter. Pontiac thought they would get better fuel efficiency if they ran hotter, and so they do. I had electric fans on it, and actually the electric fans didn't seem to be cooling as well, so I just started messing around, got me a factory shroud and bought a racing fan and put on there, and it actually kept it cooler than the electric fans did. And of course, putting the vintage air on made it run about 20 degrees hotter, which didn't help me any. But that's probably one of the downfalls of, in the summertime, I'm careful about when it gets really hot out, because it doesn't like real hot summer days, performance-wise or temperature-wise. So that's one of the things. I actually enjoy it more in the winter when the roads, of course, are decent and it's not doing what it's doing right now. But there's a lot of nice winter days. But anyway, it likes wintertime lots better, runs a lot better then. So 400 stroker, about 450 horse, 300 turbohydromatic that's been beefed up. It's not a stock 300 turbo. I was worried about that it should have a 400 turbo since it had that kind of horsepower, but as I got to checking around, the tranny had been beefed up. It's got the B&M quick shift kit in it. Its transmission's healthy. I mean, when you hit second, it'll rattle the windows. I mean, it jumps. So transmission seems to be strong enough to take care of the 450 horse or whatever it's running there. So it's got the 300 turbo. I'll show you the inside of it. It's got the B&M quick shift, Quicksilver shifter, which you put it down in low and get about 4 grand, hit it to second, and there you go. And then you hit it again, it goes to third. You can't miss, you just slap it and it'll go right into the next gear, so you don't have to worry about jumping a gear or anything. So I love that shifter. I do. I like the shifter real well. Interior's all been redone. New carpet, new headliner, seats have been recovered. Everything's been done. I put the padded dash on, and I put the radio. It just had something in it when I got it. I don't even know what it was, but I bought one of the Pontiac vintage looking radios and put in it. Enjoy that. And of course I put the big Pioneer speakers in the package rack because that's what we did in the 70s. You had to have speakers in the back window. You just had to. That's what we did. So the interior's all been pretty much redone. It's got a 331 rear end out of a 69 or 70 Chevelle SS. So it's running 331s, which I'd like to have another gear, or I don't know if I really want any difference in the rear end, but it wouldn't hurt to have another gear. It's running about 3 grand at 70 mile an hour, which when I talked to Will Height Performance, they said, well, that's not going to hurt it any. You're just used to these new cars that lope around, go down the highway like it's 1600. And so they said it's not going to hurt it. You're just not used to a car going down the highway at 3 grand because it's just, for years, they've been overdrive and stuff. And so, and people say, well, you get better fuel efficiency. I didn't buy it for fuel efficiency. I didn't buy it to see how many miles a gallon I could get out of it. That would be kind of silly. I don't even know how many miles per gallon it gets. I don't care how many miles per gallon it gets because it had nothing to do with me buying it. I'll show you the other side and I'll crank it up for you. You could live in the trunk of this thing. I started it a while ago because you got to pump this baby when you go to start it. So it's been started. at the mileage there, 13,829 miles. When I got this 3 years ago, it had like 500. But as I said, the speedometer, it's clicking up miles faster because the speedometer's not quite right. I have this old Garmin because the speedometer is running about 20 miles faster than what you're actually going. So you're clicking off miles faster than you're actually going. I've just got this Garmin only for a speedometer, so I can use it for a speedometer. Cigarette lighter does work. Blinkers work. Headlights, everything works. I even fixed the horn. Yeah. So I went through it when I got it. There was just several little things that didn't work and this and that. And I just kind of tinkered around with all of that stuff because I like things to work. So even like the blinker right there, that little green glass was broke out, and I actually found a piece of plastic, and that took me several hours to get that to where I could fit that back in that little hole right there, just because I wanted that green light to show up like it did when it was new. So I don't know, kind of particular, but that's fun stuff to me, doing that. Back seats all been redone, all new carpet. Even the courtesy lights work. Which, you know, some of these old classics, you know, you get them, I watch them, and a lot of the stuff don't work. I mean, blinkers don't work. Most of them, the horns don't work. You know, just little things like that don't work. And that was one of the things that I wanted to do when I got this, was start working on those little things. You know, there wasn't a radio in it. Just that kind of stuff, you know, to get things working, because I like things to work. The only thing, the back windows do not roll down, and the regulators for the back windows on these are almost, you just can't find them. You can for the hard tops, but you cannot hardly find them for the sport coupes. So what I did, because I was afraid somebody would try to roll them down, I just shaved off the handles and just put the round circle on there. I don't know if you can see it on there. Just put the handles back on. I had all that tore apart, but I didn't realize at the time that you couldn't get regulators for those. They're hard to find. So anyway, nobody ever rolls the back windows down anyway, so I just haven't really worried about it. But that's probably the last thing that I know of that actually needs to be, you know, worked on. I get tickled when I open up this, because I'm telling you, you could camp out in that thing. Isn't that amazing? I mean, the trunks on these old classics are just unbelievable. I got tickled when I first bought this because my grandson, when I got in and I put the key in the dash, he was looking at me. He had never seen a car that didn't have the key stuck in the steering wheel. And as you seen me a while ago, the key goes in right there. And he was looking at me like, how is that going to start without a key stuck in the steering wheel? So it was kind of amusing. Then we went to, he got in and he kind of wanted to fix his hair. He put the sun visor down, and it was like, Papa, you don't even have a mirror on your sun visor. Then, no cup holders. Papa, there's no cup holders in this car. So it's just amazing to me, a lot of these young kids, they don't even recognize some of these things not being on there that we never even thought about ever having. We didn't hardly ever drink in the car. I don't remember doing a lot of eating and, sitting around drinking something in the car. I'm sure we did some, but not enough to have cup holders. But it was funny just to hear him talk. I go to pick him up at school. Boys will come out of high school. They don't even look at that car. It's just don't. It's not, that's not the boys of today. They all come out, they got their eyes on their phone, and they just don't care. Cars aren't a big thing to a lot. I'm not saying all, but to a lot of the kids today, the boys today, cars aren't what they were for us. But to their defense, they can't work on them. I mean, the normal shade tree mechanic thing is done. You just can't. Too much electronics, a lot of computer stuff. I'm not saying there isn't some kids that can do that if they've got that kind of knowledge, but you can't raise the hood and pull the carburetor off and rebuild the carburetor. They used to call me the quadrajet king back in the 70s because I could jerk a quadrajunk is what some people called them. I could pull a quadrajet, take it in on my kitchen table, tear that thing apart, put all new floats in it. They always had the shellac would go bad on the floats, and it'd start sinking, and gas would run over the top, and usually the same things was wrong with them, so it wasn't a big deal. But I was the one they always came to for quadrajunks to work on them. And I loved the quadrajet. I thought they were a good carburetor, but they did have some issues. But boys can't work on cars like they used to be able to in this day when you see like this one sitting here. So it's hard for them to get excited about. In my day, the car was everything. And you had a friend that could do trannies, you had a friend that could do motors, you had a friend that could do rear ends, you had a friend that could do stereos and speakers, and so you drug the streets on Saturday night, worked on them all day Sunday because you usually tore them up on Saturday night. And here a few weeks ago, I took my grandkids and we went into the town that I used to drag and told them about dragging Main Street. They just looked at me like deer in the headlight, like, why would you do that? It was fun. You'd go and you'd see all your friends and you'd meet at the Sonic and everybody'd get out, and it was just a good time. It was a good time, but they don't even recognize dragging the streets. I said I used to get to town an hour early so I could drag the streets before going to school. Why? They said, it's just what we did. So it's just amazing how times have changed, and I'm not saying for the better. It was a lot more simpler back in this 1965 day. This car is even a little older than what I was actually around. I drove a 69 GTX, and it was a 440 Super Commando Highway Patrol Special, and it was a screamer, and I really wanted a Mopar when I got this, but if I bought a GTX that was as good a shape as this one was, I would have paid twice as what I paid for this. They're just expensive. Even if I'd got a satellite that had been cloned to a GTX, it still would have been way higher than this. It's funny because back in my day, these were way higher than a GTX Roadrunner, or, a Chevelle and all them was so much higher than a Mopar. But today, it's completely opposite if you go to get a classic. GTX is what I wanted, but the money that I had, I just didn't have it for it. So I ended up getting this, and I've enjoyed it. I like it. I just kind of wanted a car back like the one I had in high school. I like the interiors on these better. That GTX I had, it was a screamer, but the inside of it looked like grandma's going to the grocery store car. It had like a bench seat automatic on the column. The inside of it, there was nothing pretty about it. This one here's got a lot nicer looking inside than that one did. But I don't know. Mopars is what we drove because they were cheap. Back in the 70s, you could get a Mopar way cheaper than one of these. I sold that because gas got up to about 50 or 60 cents a gallon. Couldn't afford to drive that. And so got rid of it for $600. And if you're my age, we've all made those mistakes. There's not a guy that's in his 60s that couldn't sit around and talk about what he had that's now worth a small fortune that he got rid of for $500. It's just, that's the way it is. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this, and just wanted to do a walk around on it and show it to you, and maybe reminisce a little bit about the 70s and what they called these was the goat. But this isn't a true goat. It's a goat. It's a one that's been turned into a goat. And I had some guy say GTO stood for gas, tires, and oil. I don't know about that. But anyway, that's what he told me. This is fun to drive to the store, but if you decide to go to the store, don't be in a hurry, because you're going to get hooked up with some gray-headed guy like me, and he's going to want to talk. And that's fine. I enjoy that. I'm retired now, and I enjoy visiting with people. And so I've had a lot of fun just in conversation. I'm not big on taking it for, car shows and stuff, because it's not really a show car. So, but just like to go talk to the guys about the days that are long gone. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this, and we'll talk to you later.